over the answers you got here. So I'm just going to have you share out. Who can tell me what they got for the x-intercept? And remember, we want them as ordered pairs because that is the point. They are points. Who can tell me the x-intercept you got for number 10? What'd you get? X-intercept always ends in a 0. 4, 0, is that what you got? And what'd you get for the y-intercept? 0, 2. Cool. What about for this one? 18, 0 and 0, 4. If we all agree, the probability is very high that we got the same answers and they're right. Yes? Negative 4? Oh, and that would change everything. I'm so glad that we actually made a mistake and we fixed it. Because what I will tell you is that if you graph 0, 4 as opposed to 0, negative 4, you have a completely different line, wouldn't you? And this is why the checkpoint is important. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts on this? On those? Questions on those? Okay, let's go ahead and do the next ones. So if I want to find, I'm going to just plug in x is 0. That is going to give me the y-intercept. So my y-intercept is going to be, if I plug in 0, I get negative 0 plus 2y equals 4. Divide by 2, right? Y equals, well, I could divide by 2 here, but that's gone. All right, and that's 2. Y equals 2. So what's that ordered pair? 0, 2. So that's my y-intercept. Y-intercept. If I want to find my x-intercept, what do? Plug in y is 0. So I have negative x equals 4. And what is positive x? Oops, I'm off the page a little bit. What's positive x if negative x is 4, positive x is negative 4, because you would divide by negative 1, right? X equals negative 4. So my x-intercept is negative 4, 0. Okay, and just like we noticed, sometimes you can really get messed up with your signs. So when you graph this using the intercepts, you would go 0, 2 is here. And over here is negative 4, 0. Negative 4, 0 is there. Now, if I graph this, and of course you could always rearrange it, put it into slope y-intercept form, use the slope and the y-intercept. That's another way of graphing. But if I only have 2 points, and I can see that my rise was 2, my run was 4, rise 2, run 4, there's all these other points that it crosses at. And if I had graphed positive 4, you can see that I would have a completely different line, right? With a completely different slope, everything different. So what should I do, since I only really graphed 2 points, what should I do to make sure that my line is correct and that I didn't make any sign errors, you guys? What should I do? I should do a checkpoint. So pick a point. Who wants to tell me what point do you want to pick as a checkpoint? It doesn't matter. It could be any point on the line. 3, 1. Okay. 3, 1. I don't think 3, 1 is on the line. 2, 3. 2, 3. Okay, let's try it checking 2, 3. So if we take our equation and we plug in x and y, we should have negative 2 plus 2 times 3. Is that equal to 4? This is our checkpoint, so I'm going to put a check mark next to it. Negative 2 plus 6 equals 4. And that's 4 equals 4, and that worked out. So the whole reason why I bring this up is because before, in this earlier example, we had a little debate as to whether or not it should be negative or positive. I just want you to see what would happen. If I mixed up the signs here and I plotted positive 4, this would be a completely different line, right? And so if I pick any point on this line, let's say I pick 2, 1. If I were to plug in 2, 1, we would see what would happen. I'm just showing you a mistake so that when you make a mistake, you'll know what it looks like, okay? So if I were to plug in this point, 2, 1, into my equation, I would go negative 2, plus 2 times 1, is it equal to 4? Negative 2 plus 2 is not equal to 4, right? Because 0 does not equal 4. So that's why we know that line is not correct. This is the line negative x plus 2y equals 4. Okay, I have two lines on there, so that's why I just wanted to clarify. Okay, the next one says to graph 2x minus 4y equals 8. So we're going to use the same concepts of intercepts. Of course, you can always rearrange, set y equal to 0, and use your slope in your y-intercept. That's an option. But if I want to do my x and y-intercepts, I can start by replacing x with 0. So I'm going to find my y-intercept by setting x to 0. 2 times 0 minus 4y equals 8. Now, what do you think is the most common mistake that people make here, right here, with this one? Well, it's that they will often drop that negative sign instead of in front of the 4. So negative 4y equals 8. Divide by negative 4, because that's 0, right? I can get rid of that. Y equals negative 2. So what's the intercept, the y-intercept? Other way around, right? 0, negative 2, good. And that's another issue that can happen too. You see what happens, and I even do that too, where I can make that mistake about switching your x's and y's. This is another reason for the checkpoint. Okay, x-intercept. How do we find the x-intercept? We set y equal to 0. Now, I could just like literally write 2x equals 8. Can I? X equals 4. And so my x-intercept is 4, 0. And if I go 4, 0, that's here. Y equals negative 2, 0, negative 2 is here. And I draw my line. And there could be a lot of different variations. If you end up mixing up your x's and y's, and I put arrows on the ends, if you mix up your x's and y's, that's going to give you a completely different line too. So there's probably around 4 or 8 maybe different variations of incorrect solutions that you can have. So that's why I'm emphasizing the checkpoint. I can see I went up 2 over 4. So that's the same thing as up 1 over 2. And I think I drew it a little weird. So what's this ordered pair? Yeah, 2, negative 1. And I'm going to use that as my checkpoint. So if I plug in 2 times 2 minus 4 times negative 1, is that going to give me 8? Does this make sense what I'm doing for the checkpoint? And I get 4 plus 4 is 8, and that's a true statement. 8 is equal to 8. So I do want to see, if you are using this method, I think it's really important to do the checkpoint. And also, if you see on the instructions it says do a checkpoint, then you should also do a checkpoint. Okay, so make sure you read the directions. Any questions about this method? If you're going to find the x and y intercepts, you're always using x is 0 and y is 0. That's just this method. Yeah. And by the way, actually, that is true of any equation, not just linear equations. Anytime you have a point that's on the x-axis, it's an x-intercept. And its y coordinate is 0. That's like when we're going to get into graphing parabolas next. And you have your, remember when we solve a parabola, we set y equal to 0 and solve for x. So that's coming up. But good point about the zeros. The zeros, when we use y equals 0, we're finding an x-intercept. When we use x equals 0, we're finding a y-intercept. And 0 is our friend because it's super easy.